welcome back to R Square's Monday Morning Mayhem. My name is R Square, and today we are doing Week 3 picks. If you're not excited, you should be, because let's get down. In Week 2, I finished with a total record of 10-6, a huge improvement from Week 1. I'm getting into it. I'm ready for Week 3. It is going to be the undefeated Week of Champions. So, let's get right into it then. After I tell you a little bit about what happened in Week 2, we saw the Los Angeles Chargers blow a lead and the Tennessee Titans come back in that one. We saw the Arizona Cardinals blow a lead and the New York Giants came back from that one. We saw the Miami Dolphins blow a lead, which the Patriots did come back from but didn't win the game because they're bad. And last but not least, we saw the Denver Broncos blow a huge lead at halftime and the Commanders come on back and win it all, only for the Broncos to give their fans some hope again, only to leave everyone in disappointment. The life of a Broncos fan. Let's do it. Starting with Thursday Night Football, live from Levi's Stadium. We got the San Francisco 49ers against the New York Football Giants, who came back last week and looked pretty good while they were doing it. However, the 49ers they didn't look that great against a Rams team who coming in didn't have the highest expectations, but now I think the expectations are a little bit raised for this LA Rams team that are not playing in this game. So I don't really know why I'm talking about them. So let's get right back on to the Giants and the 49ers. The Niners have an 84, America picks 84% in San Francisco's favor. Watch the pregame show, they will tell you that statistic. I'm telling it to you early. 84% of everyone in the USA have picked the San Francisco 49ers, and I am one of those percent right there, because the San Francisco 49ers are going to wipe the floor with the Giants. Even though they're so tall, they're still going to knock them right over and wipe the floor with them. It is not going to be a competition. Nick Bosa, Talanoa Hufanga, all of those guys up there are going to absolutely destroy the New York Giants offensive line. They cannot hold against the Cowboys. They definitely can't hold against the 49ers. They can't hold against the Cardinals. Well, they sure can't hold off against any other team in the league, because the Cardinals are terrible. But the 49ers are definitely going to win this one, in my opinion. I think that's an easy game. It might have been a good Thursday Night Football game before the Giants season started, but not anymore. I'm taking the 49ers big time over the Giants. Next up, we have the first of our early games on Sunday at 1 o'clock on CBS. We have Cleveland Browns Stadium. It's the Tennessee Titans against the Cleveland Browns. You guessed it. The Browns will be without Nick Chubb in this one. However, the Titans look hot and good. Kevin Byard had a fantastic game for the Titans against the Chargers. Derrick Henry looked good. Everything looked good. Even Tannehill showed some signs of looking interesting, but normally that doesn't happen. The Titans don't look like an amazing team or anything like that, but they definitely looked good. I think the Titans are going to win this one. Not a popular opinion, because the Browns are a decent team. They beat the Bengals, but then again, they beat the Bengals with Nick Chubb and proceeded to lose to the Steelers. So I'm taking the Titans in this one because personally, I think that the reason the Browns won is because the Bengals played badly. I don't think it was that the Browns actually won that one. I think it's that the Bengals lost that one. So I'm taking the Titans in Week 3. Next up, we have the Falcons and the Lions. An interesting match in this one. The Falcons haven't lost yet. I'm surprised by this. I'm sorry, I am, because I don't want to say anything like offensive to the Falcons, but I honestly thought they were gonna be kind of under 7 wins in the year, or maybe 7 wins in the year is probably what I put them at. But they've surprised me. They've done a really nice job on the ground. The air attack needs a little bit of work, but defensively they look pretty good. And I don't know if they can knock off the Lions there. I'm taking the Lions in this one. Only because the Lions have just looked really good in general. They held their own against Seattle, even though they did end up losing that one. But they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 1 and forced overtime against the Seattle Seahawks. They're proving that they are a playoff team. They're proving that they're supposed to be there. And I think they're going to do it again and knock off the Falcons in this one. Keep the Falcons out of 3-0 and knock them down to 2-1. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. The undefeated New Orleans Saints, somehow, and the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. I think this is going to be a very interesting game because it's going to be interesting. I would like to watch this one, actually, because the Packers are a very good team. Oh, very good. They're an all right team. They're okay. They're a decent team. They may be without Aaron Jones again this week, and they didn't exactly play well against the Falcons. They also allowed a comeback for the Falcons to come back and win that one. It'll be a pretty interesting game to watch, however. It's going to be in Lambeau Field. I'm kind of going to give the Packers the advantage here, even though I think the Saints do have a good shot at winning this one. I think it's a fair match, definitely. It's a really good matchup in this one because, I mean, it's not too good. It's two good teams, not two great teams. Like, neither of these teams are probably going to win their division. They might. The Saints have a good shot because they have a really easy schedule. Like, a really easy schedule. The Packers don't have as much of an easy schedule. I don't think the Packers are going to win the division. They would be lucky if they made the playoffs. And so with the Saints, because based on the way that the Falcons are playing, I think they might be in a decent amount of trouble. But I'm picking the Packers in Week 3 to ruin 2 NFC South's records in this one. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos and the Miami Dolphins. The 2-0 Dolphins and the 0-2 Broncos. This is a pretty safe bet for me. I don't think I've heard anyone pick the Broncos yet. If you pick the Broncos, please comment down below. But I have not seen anyone pick the Broncos because based on how the Dolphins are playing, there's no chance the Broncos can win this one, in my opinion. Because the Broncos, I mean, they might have made an interesting comeback, but they still lost against the Washington Commanders. So, I mean, they didn't play well. I'm sure they give some fans hope. Oh, well, there's promise. Oh, well, we kicked an onside kick in the first play of Sean Payton's coaching career in Denver. And I say, oh, yeah, you kicked an onside kick? Did it work? No, didn't work. Doesn't count. Doesn't count then. And then in Week 2, the Hail Mary. It was impressive. Yeah, we threw a Hail Mary. He caught it. It was a touchdown. Did you win? No, you didn't win. I'm taking the Dolphins by a lot in this one. It'll be fun to watch. But in general, I think the Dolphins are going to win this one. Next one is one of my personal favorites. It's going to be a very interesting one between the Chargers and the Vikings. 2 0-2 teams that a lot of people probably don't think should be 0-2. The Chargers should have had a win in Week 2 against the Titans, but they lost big time. In overtime, they got shut down in their last 2 drives that they played against the Titans and against the Dolphins in Week 1, which they also lost that one. It was very disappointing for the Chargers fans to watch that Week 1 matchup. It was a shootout. And then last drive, the Dolphins have a 2-point lead. All you have to do is drive down the field, get a field goal, 3 and out. I don't even think they got a yard. They did the exact same thing against the Titans just in overtime. It was very disappointing for the Chargers. As for Minnesota, the king of comebacks, as they're called. Get it? Vikings of comeback? No. Okay, that one didn't hit? No. Man. Alright, anyway. The Vikings, they have Justin Jefferson. That's like a big advantage they have over the Chargers, is that they have Keenan Allen and they have Justin Jefferson. Who would you take? Justin Jefferson? Keenan Allen. I'm taking Justin Jefferson. But the Chargers also have Justin Herbert, which is a big thing because the Vikings have Kirk Cousins, and I'm always taking Justin Herbert over Kirk Cousins. But the big problem for both teams is that they could both be without good running backs. The Vikings don't have a running back, period. Their number 1 running back is Alexander Madison, and I don't see him doing much against the Chargers defense that has been pretty good against the rush in their first 2 weeks. Not fantastic, but they've been pretty good. And the Chargers could be without Austin Eckler. They really struggled on the ground in Week 2. Even though Austin Eckler did put up some good numbers in Week 1, so if Austin Eckler does make the cut, I think the Chargers have a very good chance of victory in this one. But all in all, I'm gonna have to take Minnesota in this one. I know I was giving good points for both teams in this one. I like this game a lot because the Vikings are gonna win this one, in my opinion. It's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a great game. I'm gonna love to watch this one. But the Vikings in general have a better defense than the Chargers. It's not a big difference, But I think the Vikings have a better defense. I also think the Chargers have a better offense. So that's going to be a lot of clashing there. But in general, I think the Vikings are going to win due to the fact that they have Justin Jefferson. And that'll be a very impressive game to watch. It's either going to be a shootout or it's going to be like 10-3. Next up, we have the Patriots and the Jets. The Jets' defense has given them a win against Buffalo without Aaron Rodgers for the majority of the game. And it's also held the Cowboys to 30 points, which is really disappointing. But guess what? The Patriots are another good team. I'm going to say it, the Patriots look good in week 2 against the Dolphins. They look pretty good. They were adapting nicely. They fixed a lot of things at halftime. They had the Dolphins figured out by the time it was the third quarter. The only problem is that they were playing 3 safeties deep, meaning that Tua just either threw it 2 yards down the field, and that's fine, or they handed it off to Raheem Mostert, who went off against the Patriots. But that's like the only problem is that they were willing to adapt to the wide receiver, but they didn't ever think that Miami would hand the ball off. God forbid the Dolphins hand the ball off. But Mike McDaniel is a very good coach. He's gonna expose those holes in the defense, and he did again there. But I think the Jets have a good chance of winning this one. I'm taking New England, however, in this one. This is probably one of my upset picks of the week. Is picking New England over the Jets. It's going to be a really close matchup, divisional rivalry in New York. It's going to be interesting, but in the end, I'm taking New England. Next up, the Buffalo Bills against the Washington Commanders. Josh Allen got a little more on track in Game 2, but of course, he was playing the Las Vegas Raiders, who don't have a good defense. But the Commanders got home against Denver. They had an amazing game defensively. Even though they did allow 33 points, which they're probably thinking, that's not a great game defensively. But they got to Russell Wilson a lot, forced him to move his legs a little bit, shaking off the rust for Russell Wilson. Rusty Russell. But I am taking the Bills in this one. It's not going to be as close as I've made it seem in these few minutes that I've been talking about it. But the Bills are probably going to win this one by a decent amount. They got Stephon Diggs. They got Gabriel Davis. They were pretty dominant against Las Vegas. It's going to be an interesting matchup considering the Commanders are 2-0 with Sam Howell under center. I'm not so certain if he's the guy there in Washington, but we haven't seen anything overly negative from him. But we haven't seen anything overly positive from him either. But I think the Bills are going to win this one. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. Only because of the fact that the Commanders have been getting it done in the first 2 weeks, and I'm not quite sure how. I haven't been watching the Commanders games. I'm not sure how they've been getting it done, but they've been getting it done. Let's see if they can do it again in Buffalo. Or at home against Buffalo. Next up, we have the Houston Texans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars looked rather disappointing against Kansas City offensively speaking, but I still think they're a top 10 team out there. And they're playing the Texans, who have kind of struggled a little bit to start. C.J. Stroud hasn't looked like everything that they would have hoped for yet. He showed some improvement in both weeks. He's gotten a little bit better, but he's still not there yet, which is why I'm taking the Jaguars by a pretty fair amount over the Texans and hope they don't try to throw it away in the fourth quarter like they almost did with Indianapolis. Speak of the devil, Indianapolis. We're here in Baltimore. It's the Colts against the Ravens. The Ravens trying to keep that streak alive. They're one of 2 teams undefeated in the AFC after 2 weeks. I know, shocking. The Ravens and the Dolphins. Never thought I'd see the day. But I'm taking the Ravens to win this one over the Colts by a pretty good amount as well. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, really got to get that run game going. I think Todd, whatever his name is. What's his name? Todd Monken. I got it. I did it. Okay. But Todd Monken, I think he's doing a really nice job through the air. He's hitting Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers a lot, but he's not getting out of the pocket as much as he needs to. He needs to start running the ball more. I know that's what they're trying to avoid, is Lamar Jackson taking unnecessary risks, but I still think he should be taking hits in this one. I'm taking the Ravens. The Panthers and the Seahawks in Seattle. It'll be a fun one. This is the first game of the late window. Panthers, Seahawks. I'm taking Seattle to win this one. DK Metcalf. They didn't play amazingly in week 1, say. 13 points isn't great against the Rams. But they still played, and they played well in week 2, though. We saw a lot of improvement. Tyler Lockett making it into the end zone at the end there in overtime by a split second. And Kenneth Walker, man, I'm looking forward to seeing him play. He looks fantastic. I mean, he's him. He's Kenneth Walker the third. He's the new thing in Seattle. He's the new thing. Geno Smith hasn't had a great first couple of weeks, but he's been just good enough to lead them to a win against Detroit, and then pretty disappointing loss in week 1. But they did look really good against Detroit, which is why I'm putting the Seahawks to beat Carolina, whose Bryce Young is still kind of getting used to the NFL. He had a little bit of a welcome to the NFL moment last week, as well as the week before that. He got destroyed by defenses. Next up, we have the next game in our late window. We have on Fox the Bears and the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. Kansas City against Chicago. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes really got things figured out in week 2 against the Jaguars. It was a close one. I think Steve Spagnuolo played really well coaching-wise. He did really well coaching his team. They got Chris Jones back, and he really made a difference there. I'm taking Kansas City in this one. Just because Justin Fields, he even said it just a few minutes before this video I recorded this video, is that Justin Fields said, I was playing on robotic. I was thinking it too much. I wasn't being natural. And that's why I'm taking the Chiefs here, because defensively they played really well against the Jaguars team, who's very pass heavy, and they really were able to stop them in that department. They couldn't get passes off. Their red zone offense was non-existent for the Jaguars, even though they did get down there a couple times. They weren't ever able to pull it off. So I am taking the Chiefs by a fair amount, probably like let's say 10-14 points in this one. Next up, we have the Cowboys and the Cardinals, America's team, headed to the desert of Glendale. I'm pretty sure you all know who I'm picking in this one. The Arizona Cardinals, obviously. No, I'm kidding. The Cowboys, Micah Parsons, looked dominant against the Jets. He also looked dominant against the Giants. He is having his way with quarterbacks, and against the Cardinals, he's going to do it all over again. He's going to have a great game again. Again! He's going to probably force a fumble, honestly. Fumble, maybe 2-3 sacks. It's going to be just dominant. There's no way I don't even think the Cardinals can get points in this one. It's going to be tough for the Cardinals to win this one, if they can even score a touchdown on him. I think that was America's Game of the Week, but that's a pretty bad Game of the Week, in my opinion. Fox has not had very good selections. Then we have Sunday Night Football. The Steelers heading to Allegiant Stadium to take on the Raiders. Raiders! The silver and black against the terrible Towels. Ooh, scary. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting game, fun to watch, because, I mean, it's the Raiders and the Steelers, two teams that haven't been great recently in these first couple of weeks, but the Steelers did come off a big win in M&F against the Browns, and the Raiders, I don't think they won their game last week. Let me double check that. Nah, they did win their game. No, they lost. I said that earlier. I don't know what I'm saying. They did lose to the Bills last week pretty badly, but then they beat the Broncos in week 1. So both these teams have had big divisional wins by about the same margin of points, just the Steelers had a little more points than the Raiders did in that one. So I'm actually taking Pittsburgh in this one. A lot of people have said that the Raiders are going to pull this one away, but I like the Steelers' chances here. They have a good defense. You never know. Stuff happens. Though I could see the Raiders winning this one. This is probably the one that I might mess up pretty easily in this one. I might lose this one. But I'm taking the Steelers over the Raiders. Now we have the first of our ridiculousness of the Monday Night Football doubleheaders. Because Monday Night Football doubleheader, it's a terrible idea. I don't know who came up with it. Monday Night Football doubleheaders, we don't need to watch 2 games. They're not even one right after another. It's not even a doubleheader. It's one that starts at 7 and another one that starts at 8. It's still going on at 8. So you have this game happening, and then you have a little box score in the corner that's telling, like right up here. You have a corner up there that's telling you the score of the other game. And in the first one of this doubleheader, anyway, is the Eagles and the Buccaneers, the undefeated Buccaneers. Somehow, again, like it's crazy. How are so many teams in the NFC South undefeated? But this is where they fall against the Philadelphia Eagles, another undefeated team. The battle of the undefeateds. Battle of the undefeated teams. the Philadelphia Eagles are going to take this one by a pretty good amount, I would say. Maybe I'm going to place down a good 14 points in this one. Eagles over Bucks. Unless the Bucks defense can really find a way to shut down Jalen Hurts and co., I think that the Eagles are going to win this one. And then we have a Super Bowl rematch from however many years ago. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I don't remember. But it was the last time that the Bengals made the Super Bowl. It was the last time that the Bengals lost the Super Bowl. And I am picking against the Bengals. No, I am not picking with the Cincinnati Bengals in this one. The Rams looked fantastic in Week 1 and Week 2, which I'm shocked about. They actually looked pretty good against the 49ers, and they still managed to lose that one. But they dominated against the Seahawks. They absolutely destroyed a Seattle team that has been so good last season. And they're actually looking pretty good this season after beating Detroit. I don't know what happened, but somehow, some way, they managed to just absolutely blow Seattle out of the water. It was shocking. And all that was thanks to Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, and Ben Skoranek. And Kyron Williams. But I like saying those three's names. But Kyron Williams, yeah, did a nice game as well. So I'm taking the Rams in the last of our Monday Night Football games. And I'm afraid that brings our time to the end as I pick the Rams over the Kitty Goes Meow. So that will be all the picks I have for you today. So I hope you guys had a great time watching this video. I know I did. I'm looking forward to Week 3 of football, and I'll see you again next time.